Hare Krishna. So welcome again to this weekly once program which we have. We are calling it as the Gita course. Primarily we are discussing Bhagavad Gita, but we are also every now and then touching from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. However, we are trying to do a thematic study of this Bhagavad Gita. I'm very happy to see that some devotees are still sticking on to this course. This is not an 18-day Gita course where people just come for 18 days and then they leave, probably to never even turn the page of Bhagavad Gita again. This is a different kind of a course, a kind of a personality development course which leaves the people with a food for the soul, a seed of thought in their mind, and a sublime faith in their heart. And we also follow up with them to ensure that they are engaged in the practice of Krishna consciousness. So let's begin today's session on this note. If you can hear me clearly and if you can see me properly, can you please raise your hands to confirm? Thank you. We would like to request everybody to lower your hands. Today's topic is a little technical, but in order to understand technical, we need the mercy of Guru Parampara. We need to understand. We need the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We need the mercy of Krishna. So we'll do some kirtan. And after the kirtan, we will start today's session. So I will share my screen. Okay, I hope you are able to see my screen also. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashcha Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashcha Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana ब्रज जन रंजन यामुना तीरवनचारी यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यामुना तीरवनचारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे युग धर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। Hare Krishna. So we are reading the Bhagavad Gita, Divine Song of God, and this little bit advanced topic, quite a little bit more advanced than other sessions, probably. Talks about the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, substance and shadow. What is the real substance and what is the shadow actually? So we'll discuss that. This session is dedicated to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And in order to invoke the blessings of my spiritual grandfather, Srila Prabhupada, and my spiritual master, and all the predecessor acharyas, we will chant the pranam mantras. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapatikamelam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वत देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपा तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यईश्वरं हरिः ओम तत्सत्। Please take a chair. Please take a chair. Okay. So the agenda for today's session is basically the Purushottam Yoga, the chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. So you can lift the chair and don't put it on the floor. Don't put it on the floor. Along with the chair, you... Yeah, put it here. Yeah. Now you can take a chair and sit. Okay. So the agenda for today is Purushottam Yoga, chapter 15. We will primarily focus on the first four shlokas, which give a complete picture of the entire creation of and reality of the world. It gives a picture of the entire creation and the reality of the world. So agenda for today is material world as reflected as a banyan tree, cutting down the tree of illusion, and finding out the real tree. So today I want to spend more time on question and answers because I'm seeing that many devotees are not able to join on Tuesdays. So probably they may be having questions which is getting carried forward from many sessions. Little bit we will cut short the session. That's why you see the agenda is really short. So I will stop a little earlier and see if there are any questions. And the agenda is simple, but the content is not simple. So please keep noting down your questions and we will discuss it. If it's very urgent, you can raise your hand and we'll discuss it immediately. If it is not very urgent, then we will discuss it towards the end of the session. So, material world as a reflected banyan tree. Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, shloka number 1. 1 second. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamulam Madha Shakham Ashwatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Paranani Yastam Veda Saveda Ved. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and branches down and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So this concept, something for your notebook, I'm just hoping that all of you have your notebooks along with you. Still not many people have joined. I don't know if they are going to join or not, or if they are just thinking that they'll see on YouTube, whatever the case is. Some people may have left, but we need to get all of them back somehow or the other. Before even we discuss today's session, the mantra by which we all have to function is each one, teach one, while being taught by one. It is not simply the responsibility of the temple or the volunteers to make sure that all of you are attending or the course is going on. It is a shared responsibility of everybody, not just related to this course, but the preaching in general. We all have to take this vrata in 2021, that I will make one devotee, I'll bring one new person to Krishna consciousness. Each one, teach one, while being taught by one. So if we are, let's say 100 devotees now, and if we try to bring one new person to Krishna consciousness, each one of you, then next year it will be 200. And then when these 200 will try to bring one new devotee, then next year it will become 400. So this is like a progression, a very nice progression where devotees are increasing. Now this is a very simple aim. It is not a very difficult task to cultivate one devotee in 1 year. I know devotees who have taken a vrata, 108 devotees every year, and they are working towards it. Some have taken 64, some have taken 32, some have taken 16, some have taken 8. I'm asking all of you to start with one. Each one, teach one, while being taught by one. If we do not follow this mantra, then this movement is not going to expand. I'll simply die giving classes from here, and the Krishna consciousness will not expand. We need to make a blast. We need to make a boost. We need to really go out to everybody and give the books of Srila Prabhupada, pass on these teachings of Srila Prabhupada to everybody. And only in this way will the people be saved. So people outside, they are not, there are only few of them are 100% Rakshasas. Most of them are ignorant, and most of them are innocent also. They just don't know. We are not going to deal with the Rakshasas and the envious demons. But the people who are ignorant and innocent, we have to go out and preach to them. Otherwise, let me tell you, the rapid pace at which Kali Yuga is progressing, the rapid pace at which dharma is going for a toss, the cultural values, the way they are reducing, the self-knowledge which is reducing, the knowledge of the self rather, the anchor which people had in their life, even if they were materialists, the kind of anchor which they had in their life in which they wanted to live peacefully, a self-satisfied life, everything will be lost in the next 10, 20 years if we just continue the way we are continuing now. We can write it in on paper and tell you that if we continue, not just sitting in the way we are doing, if we just continue like this, everything about Sanatana Dharma, smallest trace of Sanatana Dharma will be lost in the next 10 to 15 years if we do not go out and preach. It is a very, very I'm getting many adjectives in my mind, but it may be a little, people may feel hurt. So I'm just saying it is not a very good thing to be very, very satisfied just by my own progress in Krishna consciousness. We have to think about the others. We are the only people on this planet who are talking about pure God consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness, and the way back home. We are the only people who even realize that we are under the influence of the modes of material nature and we have to come out of it. If we don't do, then who else will do? Some organization which says you have to give 10% of your money every month, and then they are amassing huge wealth and they are opening hospitals and this and that, and simply giving money to people, take 7 lakhs, take 8 lakhs, convert yourself into this so-called real religion. We have to save people from this slaughterhouse which is opening in each and every corner of India. We have to not just dedicate our lives, but also sacrifice. Nothing great happens without a sacrifice. So therefore, my request to all of you is, go out and preach. Each one, teach one, while being taught by one. This is the mantra of this Gita course. You can't just sit at your home, take notes, recite shlokas and be happy. We, or the temple, or myself personally, I've never asked for any dakshina from all of you, but I'm your teacher. It is my right to ask for a dakshina, but I've never asked. But my dakshina is this only, basically. Bharat bhumite manushya janma hoilo jar, janma sarthak kori koro paropkar. All those of you who are pious enough, fortunate enough to take their birth, human birth, in the holy land, pious land, Tapo Bhumi of India, and they have Krishna consciousness in their blood right from birth, just scratch the surface and Krishna consciousness will come out. All of you should make your own life perfect by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, without any compromise and without any excuses. Without any compromises, without any excuses, all of you have to elevate yourself to the platform of Krishna consciousness. That is the first dakshina. And the second dakshina is that now that you have made yourself perfect, or first of all, there is no question of becoming perfect. Krishna consciousness is unlimited, and the perfection is also unlimited. Now that you have started this journey of perfection, go out and preach. So 2 things we want from you, or 2 things I want from all of you. Become Krishna conscious, become pure, go out and give this purity and the holy name to others. Progress in Krishna consciousness, preach to others. This is the dakshina. We don't want any money from you. You please keep your money with you. We don't want any property from you. You please keep your property with you. What will we do with all that? We only want you to become Krishna conscious, and we want you to go out and give this Krishna consciousness to others. This is the Dakshina, and I want all of you to seriously consider about giving me my Dakshina, because if you die without giving me my Dakshina, you'll have to take birth again just to give me my Dakshina. So why do you want to take another birth? Go back home, back to Godhead by chanting Hare Krishna sincerely and preach very nicely. We all have to go out and preach. Otherwise, the world is going to cats and dogs. There is no hope if we will not preach. So coming back to the shloka. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree and has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita 15.1. So this is the Shak Chandra Nyaya. I have sometimes explained what is a Shak Chandra Nyaya. Sometimes when the child wants to see the moon but is unable to locate the moon, the mother or the father will say, do you see this tree? The child will say, yes. Do you see the two branches in that tree? The child will say, yes. Do you see the shining round object in between those two branches? The child will say, yes. The parent will say, that is the moon. So this is called Shak Chandra Nyaya. The moon is not between the two branches of that tree. But in order to explain the concept of moon, in order to explain the idea of moon, they use an analogy, or they use a premise which is known, which is easily understandable by the person who's trying to understand the subject matter. And using that known premises, they explain something which is beyond their understanding or beyond their reach or beyond their vision or beyond their conception. This is called a Shakha Chandra Nyaya. So Krishna is trying to explain the entire material world using the Shakha Chandra Nyaya concept by taking an example of a banyan tree. Please take note. Don't go around finding a banyan tree which is being mentioned in the 15th chapter, shloka number 1. No such banyan tree exists anywhere. It is, Krishna is just trying to use the example of a banyan tree which is on the bank of a river to explain the nature of this material world. So next time, if at all you see a banyan tree on the bank of a river, don't start paying obeisances there and thinking that here is Krishna, here, this is the tree, this is the tree, this is it. And then start taking selfie and tying thread around it and all those things. Ideally, banyan tree is a representative of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It is okay to sthavar jangam dekhi taramurti. So wherever, this is the nature of a devotee, whatever he sees, he connects it to Krishna and sees Krishna in it. So when you see a banyan, when you drink water, you may remember Krishna, that because Krishna says that I am the taste in water. So when you see water every day on a daily basis, you can think of Krishna. Similarly, when you see a banyan tree, you can remember this sloka. Urdhva moolam madha shakham ashwatham prahuravyayam. You can remember this sloka, you can remember this conversation. But always know it in your heart that the tree which Krishna is referring to is not the one which you are seeing. It is an imaginary tree or a hypothetical tree which Krishna is using to explain the nature of this material world. However, when you see a banyan tree, you can always remember Krishna used the example of a banyan tree to explain this to Arjuna. So therefore, this banyan tree is an object for respect from my side. In fact, in one of the places in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada says that devotees, if they want, even they can worship a banyan tree also. But I did not get into the detail of what he said and how he said. But in one place, Srila Prabhupada has said that the banyan tree is worshipable also. But none of the banyan trees are the banyan tree which is like, you will read that you have to cut down the tree branches of this tree with the sword of knowledge and detachment. So don't, when you see a banyan tree, don't just take a sword and, yes, Krishna has told, let me cut, and then they'll put you in jail. Please don't do that. Moving on. If you see, I would have shared in the groups, I would have shared a photo with all of you. This photo of substance and shadow. This was the photo. I don't know if you can see properly. So in this photo, you can just take your mobile and you can see. So you can see a very dense banyan tree. There are pious acts mentioned there. There are sense objects mentioned there. And there are various species of animals. There are wolves, lizards, four-legged animals, two-legged animals, humans, and then different kinds of activities. Pious activities are being done. Activities of economic development are being done. Sense gratification is being done. Religiosity is being done, and impious activities are being done. In the higher parts of the banyan tree, you can also see the demigods, Indra, Ganesha, and all those, sun you can see. And on the top of the tree, you can see Lord Brahma and the object of liberation. And then there is the realm of desire. And then at the top, and even much above this tree, or even beyond the range of this tree, is Golok Vrindavan, where Radha and Krishna are standing together. I hope all of you have seen this image. This image was not just a teaser or a prop which I was using. Every image which we send with every class is very well thought, and devotees should focus on that. Shlok number 2. Adhaschordhvam prashrutastasya shakha guna pravriddha vishayah pravalaha adhascha mulyani anusantatani karmanubandhini manushaloke. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The branches of this banyan tree, they extend upward and downward, nourished by just like our Krishna consciousness is nourished by hearing and chanting. So this banyan tree is being nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses, which are exposed to the realm of desire. Twigs. The tree also has its roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive activities of human society. Now what we will do, we will break down these twigs, leaves, roots, and everything into smaller parts, and we'll try to understand what exactly Krishna is trying to say. Just like in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asks Krishna, how does a Sthita Pragya look like? How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he sit? Arjuna does not literally mean, please tell me how does a Sthita Pragya sit? Or how does a Sthita Pragya walk? Or how does a Sthita Pragya... There are internal meanings to it. When Arjuna asks, how does a Sthita Pragya sit? Basically, Arjuna is trying to ask, how does a Sthita Pragya sit in the sit in one place with a focused mind to execute the orders of the spiritual master, or be situated in the instructions of the spiritual master and control his senses. That is called sitting. So that is the real intention of Arjuna. So similarly here, the twigs mean something else and roots mean something else. How is it applicable in our lives? We'll break it down into smaller parts and we'll try to understand. Okay. Of course, you can also understand these points when you read the purport, but when you discuss it with devotees, you understand better. And the third and fourth shloka. So we will only cover 4 shlokas in the entire subject of this session. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. So Krishna is making it very clear that nobody can see this tree in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. When a banyan tree is not so old, you can see the main trunk of the banyan tree. But when a banyan tree becomes quite old, there are many aerial roots. I'm talking about a normal banyan tree, not this banyan tree. This banyan tree has its roots upwards. In the photo, which I have forwarded to all of you, you'll see the roots. The source or the point from where all the roots are coming, on that place Lord Brahma is sitting. Because this tree has its roots upwards and branches downwards. Adhas chodham prasratastasya shakha. So it's coming down. However, in a normal banyan tree, you have many aerial roots which are coming down. And then with point, after a certain period of time, few years, or let's say a few decades, these aerial roots, they come down and they ground themselves, start taking nourishment, become thick and fat. And then it is a network of trunks after that. It is very difficult to understand which is the original trunk. I've heard in Kolkata, there is a banyan tree which has so many trunks that nobody can find out which is the main trunk of that banyan tree. So we can understand that that banyan tree is thousands and thousands of years old. Maybe from the time of Krishna. So just like that Kolkata banyan tree, nobody can understand where it begins and where it ends. Now, even you can see, you cannot suddenly find where it begins, but you can certainly find where it ends. You can say, Prabhuji, if you go 50 meters from here, the banyan tree ends. After that, we don't see the banyan tree. But this tree, banyan tree, the material world example which Krishna has given, this tree, nobody can understand where it begins or where it ends, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Sometimes we feel that we are just hankering for this car. Let me take that car, and after that, my hankerings will end. I'm just hankering for a beautiful spouse. Let me have a spouse, and then my hankerings will end. I'm just hankering for a new job. Let me get a new job, and my hankerings will end. We certainly feel that after this, I'm done in my life. That means my material life is done. After that, I'll take to Krishna consciousness. There are so many people whom I meet. I'm so busy. I'm working even in the weekends. I just don't have time to attend your Gita course. I'm very busy now, but when I will get well, I'll get back to you. So they are hoping that their struggle for material existence will end at some point of time. But this is a false hope. Because Krishna says here, nobody knows where this tree ends or where it begins. We don't even know when our material struggle began. Nobody can trace out the point of time when one came into the material existence from the spiritual world. Nobody knows. Only Krishna knows. But the Jivatma knows, doesn't know, and nobody, even the demigods don't know when they came into material existence. And nobody knows where it ends. If we are thinking that, okay, if I just finish this office project and then I will be progressing in Krishna consciousness, or if I just give this exam, clear of my exams, then I will become serious in Krishna consciousness. Or if we are thinking, I will just take some time out and perfect myself in the Bhagavad Gita, then I will progress, or these kind of stupid things which are coming in our mind. Whatever reason we are giving for not practicing bhakti and not progressing in bhakti is a cheating which the mind is doing to us. We have to understand that this material life or the struggle for material existence is never going to end. In fact, the only way we can end this material existence is to cut it down with the weapon of detachment. That weapon is knowledge, jnana and vairagya. Detachment is vairagya. Weapon is the knowledge. And how does this knowledge and detachment come? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janyatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. By practicing Krishna consciousness in a sincere spirit, in an enthusiastic mode, one automatically gets knowledge and detachment. And with that weapon of detachment, one has to cut down this material tree. Don't try to figure out, okay, for the next 10 years, let me work very hard, earn a lot of money, and then I will retire, early retirement. And then after early retirement, I will give all my time to Krishna consciousness. This is again a big foolish proposal. In the present state, if we are not able to give time in Krishna consciousness and we are just increasing our material fever by working like a donkey more and more and more and more and getting money more and more and more and more, not giving that money for Krishna conscious projects, but just sitting on that money more and more and more, increasing the infection, increasing the exposure, associating with the materialists. And when things have become so bad, we are hoping that one day when we will give up, first of all, a false hope we have that we will be able to give up everything. Early retirement. That is another false hope. And then the next false hope is that after all my life I've spent like a donkey, but after my early retirement, I'll immediately become a swan or a hamsa or a paramahamsa and start giving all my time to Krishna. This is again phantasmagoria. This is again a fool's paradise. No such thing happens. It's like saying I'll not study for my examination. I'll just come in the examination hall and all of a sudden I'll get all the answers and I will write and I'll pass the 4th standard, 5th standard, 6th standard, 7th standard, 8th standard, and then I will clear everything, but I'll not study anything. That's the problem. If we do not, in the present circumstances, if we do not practice, if we do not take the tapasya, austerity, and the small sacrifices on a daily basis, if we do not do it to give priority to Krishna consciousness now, then it is never going to happen in future. It is just a phantasmagoria or a fool's paradise. That let me work now and after 5 years I will just become very serious in Krishna consciousness. Never it is going to happen. Because Krishna says nobody knows where it ends and where it begins. A fool thinks that his material life will end in the next 5 years after accumulating a lot of money. A fool thinks like this. See, it is good to plan. If a person is sincere, under the guidance of devotees, if he is planning to amass some wealth so that he can be financially stable and then give all their time to Krishna, while giving all his sufficient amount of time to Krishna, even in the present, then that is a different endeavor altogether. A person is already serving Krishna, but he has a desire to do full-time service, and then he is making some plans. That is different. But we are simply sitting on our sofas nicely, and we are just chanting some 2 or 4 rounds. Not even 4 rounds. Not even everybody is not even chanting 4 rounds. So whenever I take a poll, are you chanting? Many people say very soon about to start, hoping to become regular. These are the kind of statements I'm getting. Hoping. What do you mean by hoping? Hoping to become regular. What do you mean by that? Maya will not give you any scope for hope. If you do not declare a war against Maya by taking shelter of the holy name, she will suck the blood out of you. And you will not have any energy to do anything. And all of a sudden, death will strike. And like a fool, we will be thinking at that time, oh, I had so many more plans to do, so many things to do. I couldn't do anything. Trapped. Another life. Punarapi janamam, punarapi maranam, punaha punaha charavita charvananam. Going on. Until and unless we give up this mentality that I will do it in future, hoping to become regular, this is not going to work. My Guru Maharaj sometimes very strongly says, stop this bullshit and surrender to Krishna. It's a strong statement, but we have to take it. We have to stop our present phantasmagoria engagements which we have. I'm not saying that all of us should go to the jungle and quit whatever we are doing. No. All I mean to say is we have to give priority to bhakti. We have to become serious in bhakti. This is the final call. We don't know when death will strike. We are so foolish that we are seeing lakhs of people dying daily, but we are thinking we will not die. It's not going to happen to me. Yesterday, one of my friends was distributing some Bhagavad Gitas outside our center, and a bike all of a sudden came. This friend of mine, just day before yesterday, he came to Bangalore from his native, and we had a very nice. We are very old friends. We had a very deep discussion. We shared some Krishna conscious principles. We shared our struggles with each other. In this way, we were exchanging our love with each other. And just the next day, when he was distributing a book, a bike came in a very big. I don't know why they drive in small gullies at the speed of 90 and 80. And the bike hit my friend. And he hit him so hard that my friend went all the way flying for some meters with Bhagavad Gitas and books in his hand. And he fell down. And he got hurt and scratches. And thankfully, no bone fractures, but sufficient muscle injuries. So I was just thinking that, death will come at any time. Anything can happen anytime. We can get separated any moment. If we do not practice Krishna conscious, if we do not achieve the perfection, or if we do not complete our journey in Krishna consciousness in this lifetime, same journey again. So we have to be very, very careful. The hope that after finishing this project, or after finishing this job, or after finishing this concept, or after finishing this flat or whatever exam or whatever, I'll become serious. I'll take nice steps to progress in Krishna consciousness. This is a phantasmagoria, because the struggle for material existence never ends until we surrender to Krishna. So therefore, one must strongly cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And after that, one must seek that place. Don't try to stay here forever. We have to go back home, back to God. One must seek that place where, having once gone, one never returns, because there is no obligation to return. Why do people go to the moon and return? Firstly, because they have never gone to moon. Secondly, because they don't have the pious credits to go on moon, so they cannot stay on the moon. Just like a goat cannot be running around in the Parliament House because it does not have the qualification to be there. So moon is a heavenly planet. You can't just build a Sputnik or a mechanical arrangement and go to the moon. Just like to go to the sun, you need a body which is made out of fire. Similarly, to go to the moon, you need a different kind of body. You can't just make an artificial arrangement and go there and claim that you have gone. You'll be thrown out. And that's what is happening. They go there and they collect some dust. They spend billions of dollars to bring some dust, some stones. They bring it back and they say, we have gone and come back. What is the point of going and coming back? Why don't you stay there? Because you can't stay there. But Krishna consciousness says, Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita says, Lord Krishna says, what's that verse? Nashashanko na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mamaha natad bhashayate suryo nashashanko na pavakaha tad yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mamaha. In my abode, there is no need of electricity, no need of sun, no need of moon, because everything is self-effulgent, because I am there. Human mind cannot even imagine such a thing. Self-effulgent, what does it mean? Without a battery, we have not seen even a torch working. But self-effulgent, what do you mean? Yeah, it's actually like that. Natad bhashayate suryo nashashanko napavakaha yad gatvana nivartante. One who goes there never ever returns. Why? Because they have got the ultimate shelter which they really wanted. And they go, and like this verse says, one never returns. and their surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. This is the purpose of human life. At this point of time, I would like to share a small verse which I was reading today. I have categorized it and kept for all of us to meditate on. That verse talks about how to get out of the modes of material nature. I will share my screen. Hope you're able to see my screen. This is the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 15, shloka number 25. Rajastamascha satvena satvam chopashamena cha etat sarvam guru bhaktya purusho hi anjasajayet. One must conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by developing the mode of goodness. And then one must become detached from the mode of goodness by promoting oneself to the platform of Shuddha Sattva. All this can be automatically done if one engages in the service of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. In this way, one can conquer the influence of the modes of material nature. Very strong point. Very strong requirement and very easy solution. Just follow the words of the spiritual master. Engage in his service with faith and devotion. You can just conquer. Purport. Just by treating the root cause of an ailment, one can conquer all the bodily pains and sufferings. Similarly, if one is devoted and faithful to the spiritual master, he can conquer the influence of Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna very easily. Yogis and Jnanis practice in many ways to conquer the senses, but Bhakta immediately attains the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. If the spiritual master is favorably inclined, one naturally receives the mercy of the Supreme Lord, and by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, one becomes transcendental, conquering all the influence of Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna within this material world. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Sagunana samati tyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. If one is a pure devotee acting under the directions of Guru, one easily gets the mercy of the Supreme Lord and thus becomes immediately situated on the transcendental platform. This is explained in the next verse. This is the point which I wanted to share with you. That if all of us desire to cut down this material tree, the banyan tree of material world, and go back to Godhead and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything has extended and expanded since time immemorial, then we have to surrender to our spiritual master and we have to serve. In our case, or in your case, the spiritual master is Srila Prabhupada. Read his books very, very sincerely. And don't just read randomly. We have already circulated a sequence of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. More important than reading is hearing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Bhakti starts with Shravanam. When you hear, you become fixed up. Your mind stops running around like a monkey. And then, being situated in that mode of transcendental goodness by hearing, you can chant. And then when you can chant, you can also read. That's the process. So please surrender to Srila Prabhupada. Follow what he says. And automatically you will conquer the modes of material nature. Otherwise, all these Jnanis, Yogis are simply struggling. Coming back to this topic of Bhagavad Gita. This was also a good topic. Not that we didn't like it. Okay, so now we'll break this section into smaller parts. So, analogy of the unusual inverted banyan tree. What and all we have to discuss. Number one, we have to discuss how it is the reflection of the spiritual world. Number two, we have to understand what Krishna means when he says tips, leaves, and twigs. Number three, branches upward and downwards. Number four, subroots and extra strong roots. Number 5, how to cut down, what does it mean to cut down this tree of illusion? And number 6, surrender to the Lord, what does it mean? So in today's session, I would like to cover 3 topics. Reflection, how is it a reflection of the spiritual world? What is the significance of the tips, leaves, and the twigs? And what are these branches upwards and downwards? Other topics I will cover in the next session because I want to have some interaction with all of you, spend some time with you. We are not able to do that because you people have stopped coming on Tuesdays. And some of you have stopped coming on Sundays also. I don't know what to do. So therefore, I want to spend time on the Sunday session only. So, reflection. You see in this small image which is on your screen, there is not a banyan tree, but a small tree which is there on the bank of a river, and how the tree is being reflected. In originality, the tree's roots are down and branches are up. But in the reflection, you see the root is up and the branches are down. So, there's a very nice story which Srila Prabhupada says in this regard, how the material world is an illusion. But I'll tell that story later on. Or maybe I can say it now. There was a rabbit. There was a lion. I hope many of you have heard. There was a lion. The story basically highlights how when one forgets their constitutional position and they become elated and morose due to the various changes of situations, dualities which exist in the material world due to false ego, how when one starts considering this body as their real self, and then things related to their body, the property and everything as theirs, instead of understanding everything belongs to Krishna, then how one becomes a killer of their own soul. That is being highlighted by this story, that there was a lion in a jungle once, and every day he used to hunt. So the animals, they went to the lion as a group to have a treaty that you don't kill people randomly. We will send one person to you on a daily basis and you can eat them, no problem. So the lion said, no, okay, that's fine. That's good for me. I can just eat and sleep. You keep sending me people. So one day it was the rabbit's turn to go. But the rabbit didn't want to die, of course. Right from the small ant to Brahma, everybody loves their existence, their life, no matter how much ever insignificant it may be. So the rabbit went a little late. It just roamed around here and there in the forest and then went a little late. Lion was angry and hungry. He said, why were you late? He said, I was not late. I was coming on time. But you know what? I met another lion on the way. And he also wanted to eat me. I told him that, I already belong as a meal to that lion who is the king of the jungle. But the lion whom I met on the way started saying that I'm also the king of this jungle. So I just came running to inform you that there is another lion here. So the lion could not tolerate that. How can there be another lion here? This belongs to me. Aham mameti. My father, my mother, my wife, my daughter, my house. How can there be another person here? So my. Everything related to my should be under my control. And I should be very nicely be having the Ishwara Bhav on top of it. So the lion could not tolerate ego because no Sambandha Gyan, who he is and who Krishna is, and that everything belongs to Krishna. So the rabbit took him to a well. And that well, he said, you see, if you look into the well, you will see that lion. And that lion is as good as you, as big as you, as strong as you, and he can do everything which you are also doing. So the lion roared and said, how is it possible? I am the best. So when he looked into the well, he saw the lion is as big as him, as strong as him, and he's really doing everything which he can do. And he was roaring at the top of his voice. All the animals were fleeing in fear. And the lion from inside the well was echoing with an equally louder roar. So the lion could not tolerate this. He jumped into the well and died, thinking that I'll go inside and kill this lion. So he jumped into the well, and then he could not swim for a long time and he died. So this is material world. It's a reflection. Just like the lion jumped into the well, thinking that it is the reality, and became the killer of its own soul in own life. So similarly, if we also start thinking this material world, which is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world as the reality, then we will just be the killer of our soul, Atmaha. We will just degrade our soul into lower and lower species of life. So what are the properties of reflection? The properties of reflection is, first of all, it is temporary. Secondly, it is opposite. Third, not happens, not real, but appears to be real. And fourth, it is dependent on the existence of reality. Some things for your notebook, points for your notebook. It is temporary, completely opposite, not real, but appears to be real, and dependent on the existence of reality. Let's discuss it one by one. Reflection is temporary. What does it mean? It means disturbance in the medium of reflection. If there is a disturbance in the medium of reflection, then you cannot see the object properly, so it appears temporary. Why is it temporary? Because if there is a disturbance in the medium, it will not be visible. You're seeing your face in a water, and somebody throws a stone in that water. You can't see your face until the water becomes settled down. Similarly, that's why it's temporary. The reflection is temporary. And distorted reflection due to the environment. Which, if there are changes in the environment, still you can, if the sun sets, if there is no light, you can't see your reflection. So in the image, if you see, which I had sent you, there was the tree, and between the tree and the original spiritual world, there is a realm of desire. So the water on which this banyan tree, the original banyan tree, is there in the spiritual world. The original beauty, the original variety, the original life, the original relationships, the original supreme personality of Godhead is there in the spiritual world. Now that perverted reflection, why do I call it perverted? Because suppose if there is this tree and there is an apple in this tree. This is the apple. And this apple is very green, very fresh. Some parrots have come and tasted it also, so it has become sweeter. Nice fragrance, nice texture, very nice to touch. And the reflection of this apple is falling in the water. You cannot get the texture, you cannot get the smell, you cannot get the taste, you cannot get the look and feel or the exact idea about the apple in the reflection. Reflection is just a reflection. So therefore it's a perverted reflection, because all the original qualities which exist in the spiritual world, only an insignificant fraction of those qualities in a perverted way, not in the exact way also, in a perverted way is reflected in the material world. And how is it reflected? On what platform it is reflected? So this reflection is on the platform of desires. So the water on which the original spiritual world is reflected as the material world is the water of desire, or the platform of desire. So basically speaking, this material world exists based on the reflections of our desires. Because we have desired to forget Krishna, because we desired to be like Krishna, because we desired to enjoy separately from Krishna, so therefore this material world exists. If we stop desiring it, then we will be in yoga or in communion with Krishna all the time. So the problem is desire. Okay? Just imagine if there is a fish which is seeing the reflection of that fresh green apple in the water, and it is thinking, today I don't need to search for food. And with speed it goes towards that reflection. But the moment it starts moving towards, it sees the apple is disappearing, and when it just hops and goes towards it, the apple is gone. Or maybe a bird is seeing or some kind of creature is seen, and they go and dive into it, but when they dive it, it's not there, and they become frustrated, and then they wait for some time in agony that I'm a loser, I could not achieve it. And then again, after some time, they still have that desire. That means the perverted reflection to stay away from Krishna, enjoy separately from Krishna is still there. Then the material nature will again propose. That means the water will again get calmed down, and again they will see a green apple, and again they'll rush towards it, and again they'll not get anything. That is Maya. This game sounds very stupid on the part of a fish, but this is what we are doing since time immemorial. Maya is always over promising and under delivering, and we are always again and again falling for its promise, hoping that this time I'll get something better. Although I didn't get anything good in the last 1 billion lifetimes, but this time when the Maya is making a proposal again, illusory proposal, I'm thinking, oh, this time I'll get something. 100%. This is called insanity. This is called craziness. There is no happiness in this world, and everything is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Original beauty, original variety exists in the spiritual world. So therefore, this reflection is temporary. Why temporary? Because the medium of reflection, there is disturbance, meaning to say our desires keep changing. They are not spiritual desires. That's why the environment is also distorted. Next, this reflection is completely the opposite. So the nature of the material world is completely opposite to the spiritual world. How? Manifestation of the Lord, duration of existence, illumination, happiness, attitude. So if you see, let's discuss one by one. The manifestation of the Lord. The Lord is always visible in the spiritual planets. Anybody can see him, talk to him, meet him. But here in the material world, people are saying, show me God, show me God. Why? Because in the spiritual world, everybody's eyes are anointed with the love of God and they can see God all the time. But in this material world, they all want to see some horrible things. They don't have love for Krishna. So how can they say, see Krishna? So just opposite. Spiritual world, Krishna is always visible. Material world is never visible to the common man. People challenge. Let God present before me. Otherwise, there were some movies which had been made. Which was that movie? There was one movie which really blasphemed all kinds of God consciousness. Somebody is typing. Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God. So nicely they blasphemed. If there is God, let him come before me. It is like saying, if Narendra Modi exists, let him come before me. As if somebody will come. Idiot. That is very idiotic proposal. Just like we can't see the ghosts. If the ghosts are saying, if the human being exists, let him come before me. What has the human being got to do with the ghost? Similarly, if we say, let the President of India, if he exists, let him come before me. Why will he come? Do we have the qualification to meet the President of India? No. Then why we should make such desires? So you don't have the qualification. We don't have the qualification to see God. How can we say, if God exists, let him come before me? But however, in the spiritual world, he is always manifested. And everybody is eternally engaged. They want to see Krishna. They want to serve Krishna. And they want to feel happiness by seeing Krishna happy. These are the three sentiments which all the residents of the spiritual world are eternally carrying. They cannot even think of an existence separate or away from Krishna. They don't even have a conception like that. So that's why the manifestation of the Lord in the spiritual world is always there, and in the material world is like very rare. Secondly, duration of existence. In the spiritual world, I'm just trying to show how spiritual world is completely opposite to the material world. So, in the spiritual world, duration of existence, in the spiritual world, everything is eternal. Please, can you name one eternal thing in the material world? There is no eternal thing in the material. Everything here is temporary. The body is temporary. Even the soul, which is permanent, but still it keeps changing the bodies. So nothing is permanent. There are 6 transformations of matter, which is birth, growth, maintenance, reproduction, dwindling, and death. All the places we are seeing these things happening. But in the spiritual world, there is no birth, no growth, no maintenance, no reproduction, no dwindling, no death. Srinivas Ramakrishnan Prabhu is answering the question that what is permanent in this material world? Sun, fire, and wind. This is a wrong answer. Sun, fire, and wind are not eternal. When annihilation happens, there is no sun, there is no fire, there is no wind, there is no time. Everything gets annihilated and it goes into something which is called as Mahat Tattva or the Pradhan. These details are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto and also in the second canto in more detail. So there is something called as annihilation, after which there is no sun, no fire, no wind, nothing. And then the Bhagavatam says, even before anything existed, Krishna was there. Even when everything is existing, Krishna is there. And even after everything will cease to exist, Krishna will be there. This is God. So nature is also material nature. What is material nature? It's a manifestation of the material energy. All the manifestations come when this material nature is agitated by the modes of material nature through the glance of Krishna. Krishna glances, Mahavishnu glances it. And in his glance, many souls are impregnated into the material nature. Okay, I don't want to get into other discussions. People are proposing some other things. So duration of existence. In the material world, everything is temporary. One can go on talking on a hypothetical basis or on a so-called physiological or a physical or a chemical basis. But actually, nobody has seen anything which is permanent. There is no such thing which is permanent. So, but in the spiritual world, everything is permanent. Illumination. I just quoted that shloka where Krishna says that there's no need of sun, moon, and electricity there. In fact, some people are saying nature is, just to answer that question, why to go to the scriptures? Sun, fire, and wind. You go and talk to the scientists, they will only tell you the sun was formed at such and such date and such years ago. That means before such and such date, the sun was not there. And the fire element and things like that. Atoms of energy was also not there. Nothing was there. Time as an element was not there. What to speak of atoms, Mataji? Prachi Mataji is asking, atoms of energy, was it there or not? No, nothing was there. These material scientists have come up with that antimatter concept or the theory of Big Bang. They are missing many details. If they can just read the second canto of Bhagavatam, they will get the full idea how the creation has happened from the minutest detail to the biggest detail. But they don't read that. They're just speculating. They'll take millions of years, still they'll be in ignorance. So atoms of energy also didn't exist. The whole concept of Big Bang means it is something which is like the sum total of everything which exists and at one particular point of time, and then a big bang happens and then the peacock feather comes out of it. That's the stupid theory of the scientists. Okay, so moving on, illumination. There is no need of illumination in the spiritual world, but there is always the need of illumination in the material. We can't imagine anything without any illumination. No lamp, no light. I used to stay in a village called Govindpur in Jharkhand. So when I was a small child, there used to be transformers in my village. And sometimes in a year, the transformer would go for a toss. And the government sending a new transformer was like a 20-day or a 25-day affair. because the minister would have eaten up all the money. And all the villages used to be really behind the electricity department, Damodar Valley Corporation, DVC, electricity department. Every day they would go and visit the house, the electricity board, hum log ko de dijiye, please give. Then after 20 days, it would come. In those 20 days, we wouldn't see electricity. I was a small child, I was having fun. I used to roam around with the lanterns and the lamps. Somehow I used to feel thrilled to study in a lantern. All the time I was studying in a tube light. I used to feel thrilled to study and do something, sit with my sisters and talk with them in a lantern. And of course, I stretched it a little far, too far. That's why I got my specs. I was somehow fascinated to do things in the dark, study in the dark, less light. So that's how I got my specs. Bad eating habits also, less green vegetables. So anyhow, it came. But point which I'm trying to say is that even if there is no lantern or a lamp, we cannot exist only. If the sun doesn't come out for one day, half the planet will be dead. Because they just can't function without it. Okay. Some people are saying that they are not able to hear. Okay, but others are saying that they are here. Okay. So illumination is a permanent thing in the spiritual world and a temporary thing. Opposite of permanent illumination is no illumination, which is there in the material world. And no need to discuss the happiness aspect. You know, the world, this material world has been described as dukkhalayam. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam anityam asukham. But there is the description of Vaikuntha given in Bhagavatam. Let me today show you the description. I'll again stop sharing. I'll go to Bhagavatam and I'll show you. Veda base. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Description of the Kingdom of God. Okay, let me share my screen. Are you all ready to know and understand, or at least get some information how the spiritual world is? If you're ready, then please type yes in the chat box. Okay, very few people are interested. Okay, now I will show it to you. Please stop typing. In the Vaikuntha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original person and who can be understood through Vedic literature, he is full of uncontaminated mode of goodness with no place for passion or ignorance. He contributes religious processes for the devotees. Now here the description begins. In those Vaikuntha planets, there are many forests which are very auspicious. In those forests, the trees are desire trees. And in all seasons, they are filled with flowers and fruits because everything in Vaikuntha planets is spiritual and personal. If you go and read these purports, you will find more details. Desire tree means you just go to a tree and you say, I want this, the tree will give you. But the problem is there, nobody wants anything for themselves. They only want things for the service of Krishna. That's why in the spiritual world, there are desire trees, because people have no desires for themselves. So the trees become desire trees. You go to a mango tree and ask for apple, it will give you apple as many as you want. Surbhi cows, you go and ask a Surbhi cow, I need 5,000 liters of milk, cow will give. But here in material world, everybody wants everything and nothing is there. Why? Because we are contaminated. Next, in the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing the character and the activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of inauspicious qualities. While singing of the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant with laden honey. Very important point. Actually, these are These slokas are a class in themselves, but I will just tell you important points. Text 18. When the king of the bees hum in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, cuckoo, and the crane, and the chakravaka, the swan, the parrot, the partridge, and peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord, meaning to say that there is no envy in the spiritual world. Even a bumblebee, the king of the bumblebees, even when a bee comes and starts singing the glory of the Lord, all these so-called top class favorites, crane, cuckoos, chakravaka, the swans, they all keep quiet. They don't feel envious. Everybody becomes quiet. Why? Because here is a devotee who is glorifying the Lord. Let us hear. So there is no envy in the spiritual world. Although the flowering plants like Mandara, Kunda, now you must have not heard the names also because it's Kali Yuga. Although the flowering plants like Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utupala, Champaka, Arana, Punnaga, Naga Keshara, Bakula, Lily, and Parijat are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi, for Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. That means no matter how great a person is there in the spiritual world, they are always grounded and always humble, and they always think in relation with the Lord. Nobody is puffed up. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their aeroplanes made of lapis lazuli. People of Kali Yuga cannot even imagine this. Emerald and gold. Although crowded by their consorts, who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by the mirth of their beautiful charms. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the men of Vaikuntha are thousands times stronger and the women of Vaikuntha are 1,000 times beautiful. But these women cannot charm the men. Neither the men can, even if they intermingle with each other, they do not get any sex desire because their love for Krishna is so deep that their heart is already overflooded. It is not that they have no family relationships or no husband-wife. Everything is there. Husband-wife relationship is there. But the love of Krishna is the topmost. That's why they cannot be stimulated to passion by the mirth, the beautiful charms. The ladies in the Vaikuntha planets are as beautiful as the goddesses of fortune herself. Such transcendently beautiful ladies, their hands playing with lotuses and their leg bangles tinkling, are sometimes seen sweeping the marble walls. Please take note, there is no dust in Vaikuntha, but they are sweeping the marble walls. Why? These marble walls are bedecked with intervals of golden borders in order to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's all. Just to attract Krishna, they are sweeping the floor, which is not dirty. And that floor is made of gold. The goddess of the fortune worship, the goddesses of the fortune means these ladies, they worship the Lord in their own gardens by offering tulsi leaves on the coral paved banks of transcendental reservoirs of water. While offering the worship to the Lord, they can see on the water the reflection of their beautiful faces with raised noses, and it appears that they have become more beautiful because of the Lord's kissing their faces. So there is only one enjoyer in Krishna, in Vaikuntha, that is Krishna. Nobody else is the enjoyer. It must be very much regrettable, Brahma is talking like this, that it is very regrettable that people, one second. It is very much regrettable that unfortunate people do not discuss the description of Vaikuntha planets, but engage in topics which are unworthy to hear and which bewilder one's intelligence. Those who give up the topics of Vaikuntha and take to the talk of material world are thrown into the darkest regions of ignorance. So this is a very nice chapter. I will not discuss the whole chapter. I will stop the discussion here. But that's how, this is the description of Vaikuntha. And take it from me, this is the description of Vaikuntha, not Golok Vrindavan. Golok Vrindavan is like unlimitedly times more opulent and beautiful and appealing to the heart. Where Krishna, here 400 form of Krishna, Narayan is there. But in Golok Vrindavan, Krishna is personally there. So you cannot imagine what great treasure is awaiting us only if we can go out and preach, and only if we can make ourselves Krishna conscious. Okay. Okay, I have few more slides to cover for the day, and then we'll take some questions. I will again share my screen. Okay, so happiness. I just gave you a description of Vaikuntha, some 6 verses. The whole of Bhagavatam is full of such descriptions. In Vaikuntha, every step is a song. No, sorry, every word is a song and every step is a dance. That is the environment. And no need to discuss the happiness or the happiness quotient in this material world. Padam padam yad vipadam natesham. Every step is a danger. But there are idiots who do not realize how dangerous is their situation when they are not chanting at least 4 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. When they don't know, if they know, and the people who are not worshipping the Tulsi plant and not circumambulating the Tulsi plant, if we tell them what is the future, just by breathing in this material world, how many sinful reactions are being accumulated, they will start shaking in their boots. People who don't put a tilak, don't put a kanthimala, it's how dangerous it is to be in the material world, they don't know. People who do not chant Hare Krishna are not surrendering themselves, or in the words of Prabhupada, not sacrificing their lives for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. Punarapi janamam, punarapi maranam. Same thing will go. And attitude, of course, there is a big difference in the attitude of the people of material world and spiritual world. In the spiritual world, everybody is eager to please Krishna, wants to see Krishna happy, wants to see Krishna as the enjoyer. But in the material world, everybody wants the world, everybody thinks that the world revolves around them. They want to be the enjoyer. Why there are so many fights in the material world? Because everybody is thinking that I am the enjoyer. So many collisions. But there is no collision in the spiritual world because nobody thinks that I am the enjoyer. And only Krishna is the central object of enjoyment. We want to see Krishna happy. We want to serve Krishna. We want to be with Krishna. And he's the only object of enjoyment. So there is no collision. But here everybody wants to enjoy. So there is so much collision. In spiritual world, the environment is to serve. There is a competition who can do better service. Imagine if you go into a room, there are 5 people sitting in that room, and each 5 of them are thinking, how can I serve me? I have entered in that room and everybody is thinking, how can I serve me? How can they serve me? How nice the environment will be. It will melt my heart and I will also want to serve them. That is spiritual world. But in the material world, as a conditioned soul, when I will enter the room, I will think, okay, these 4 people are serving me. This 5th one is not serving me. Why? How can I take maximum service? How can I pay peanuts and force people to work for 14 hours, 18 hours? Now, companies are saying no need to come to office, work from home. I'll squeeze you. I'll keep paying you less. Recently, someone was sharing with me that the companies, they don't give an annual payment structure also. They just say that for the next 2 months or 3 months, this much will be the payment given to you. After that, no one knows what will happen. And slowly and steadily, they are reducing, but the work is increasing. The descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam is coming true. People will be paid lesser and lesser and lesser, and they'll be forced to work more and more and more. Why? Because everybody is a Shudra. Nobody wants to become a Brahmin. The government is also encouraging the Shudra culture by opening more and more industries and things like that. They are not training Brahmanas. This society is like a headless society. No brain. Government is encouraging everybody to become a Shudra. Just go and work for others. That is the problem. So therefore, their attitude in the material world is exploitation. How can I exploit? A Shudra thinks like this. How can I take more and more exploitation? Because the senses of the Shudra are not controlled. Shudra is not someone who is by birth. Anybody whose senses are not controlled and who has no transcendental realization is a Shudra, whether born in a Brahmana family. So government encourages everybody to become Shudras. And one of the primary symptoms of a Shudra is that he works for others. Okay. One second, I'm getting a call from the temple. I'll just say I'm in a class. Okay, moving on. So we see how the material world is completely opposite to the spiritual world. Now, it is not real, but it appears to be real. That's another thing. The material world is real. The objects of this world are also real, but the promise of happiness is not real. Imagine if this mango is kept on your table. The mango exists real. The table is there real. Everything is real. But when you go and bite this mango, you realize it is made out of plastic. So the promise of happiness is not real. So the first, I was giving that example of a fish. The Mayavadis say Brahman Satya Jagat Mithya. Only that Brahma Jyoti is true. They don't have Paramatma or Bhagwan realization. Only that Brahman is Satya. The whole Jagat is Mithya. It is false. It is illusion. The Vaishnavas or the devotees of Krishna, the students of Bhagavad Gita, in the line of Guru Shishya Parampara, they say, no, Brahman is Satya, Jagat is also Satya. Why? Because this is an energy of Krishna. If it is an energy of Krishna, how can it be Mithya? But the only thing is that it is temporary. Now we can again go back to the first verse of the 15th chapter. The fish is seeing the example or the reflection of the apple. So that apple which is there in the spiritual world or in the tree is truth. The reflection of apple which is there is also the truth, but it is temporary. That means the promise which we are getting on that perverted reflection of the spiritual world in the material world, which is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, the promise of happiness which we are getting is a false happiness. We can't get happiness in this world, but we are being promised for happiness. You buy this car, you'll become happy. You buy this flat, you'll become happy. You get this job, you'll become happy. You pass this 10th exam, you'll be happy. Then you just struggle and pass the 12th exam, you'll be happy. Then you just get a job in the college, you'll be happy. After that, you just change the job and you'll be happy. And after that, you just change another job and you'll be happy. And then you get married and settle down, you'll be happy. And then you get married and try to settle down, but more and more as years pass, you keep getting unsettled. And then you hope that you'll become happy. And then the journey continues. I have nothing against marriage. All my students are married. But I'm just saying that the kind of expectations and the kind of sense gratificatory desires with which people enter marriage, they enter just to gratify themselves, not with a desire to serve Krishna. So therefore, marriage becomes a horror. And I need not say this. We can see it around ourselves. How many of you can confidently tell me that 20 years from now, people will be marrying each other? I don't see marriages happening. I will see just, people will be living with each other and then they'll be separating. They'll be trying to get all kinds of benefits without any responsibilities. This is going on. Why? Because, when two people come close to each other with a desire to gratify each other, they'll be frustrated. But when two people come together with a desire to serve Krishna and devotees of Krishna, then house becomes a Vaikuntha. This knowledge is not there. So therefore, frustration is there in the material world. The promise for happiness is not real. So it's just a place of promises. Even if some crazy people will say that, okay, I am getting happiness in this material world. We will try to achieve something. And even if we get that happiness, before we can really relish that happiness, we will realize that this so-called happiness consists or comprises the seeds of future unhappiness in it. And even before we can start to relish that sweet taste of flickering happiness, immediately the whole situation will change and we will be given 10 more promises. That, okay, something went wrong this time, but if you can just, try a little bit more in these different directions, another 10 promises the Maya will make that this time you messed it up. This time it got messed up rather. You didn't mess up. You tried your best. It got messed up. However, if you just try for another 10 years, you'll really make it. After that, you're done. Happily ever after. It's like running behind a mirage. Every time the animal thinks, this time I didn't get it, but here there is a reflection 1 kilometer from here. Let me run. And then when he reaches there, oh, this time I think I made a mistake, but I see a mirage. Let me run. This is madness. And we are doing this lifetime after lifetime. So the happiness in the material world is not real, but it appears to be real. That is the illusory energy of Vishnu or Krishna. Real object that can give us happiness is Krishna. All of us are looking for Krishna. Some of us know it. Some of us don't know it. It is our job to understand that we are looking for Krishna. Therefore, Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaivya bhajamyaham mam mama vartmanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So everyone is looking for Krishna. Pure devotees try to attain the Lord and serve him. Impersonalist wants to merge with him. Materialist wants their demands to be fulfilled by him. But the real happiness lies in serving Krishna. But serving Krishna is really difficult. We can't just approach Krishna and serve him. Krishna is adhopsharya, beyond the facility, beyond the conception of our range of senses. We can't approach him. Just like if one fine day I get up and I decide I want to go to the Rashtrapati Bhavan and meet the President of India, it's not possible. So Krishna is Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. To enter fire, you need to be fire. Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu. He is Prema Niketan. He is the personification of unadulterated, unmotivated, and uninterrupted love. And he is surrounded by wonderful devotees who have wonderful love of Godhead. How can a stinking materialistic person like me approach Krishna? It is not possible. So what can I do? We sing every day. Shri Guru Charan, Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu, Adhama Janara Bandhu. So our Guru is Karuna Sindhu and he is Adhama Janara Bandhu. Those people who are fallen, conditioned. A bomb extraordinarily fallen, Adhama. He is the friend of such people. So therefore, I have taken out another purport and kept so that I knew that some point of time I will have to refer it. So I'll stop my screen share. I'll share it again. How to surrender to Krishna? That is the question. I can't just go and surrender to Krishna. Krishna, I'm yours, you are mine. It's very difficult to do that. So here is the path. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 10th chapter, shloka number 6. Prescribed duties of mankind. Nunam swartha paro loko naveda parasankatam yadi veda nayacheta neti naha yadishvaraha. Translation. Those who are too self-interested to beg something from others, not knowing the pain of others, not knowing others' pain. Those who are too self-interested beg something from others, not knowing the others' pains. But if a beggar knew the difficulty of the giver, he would not ask for anything. Similarly, he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty. Similarly, he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty. For otherwise, he would not refuse to give the beggar anything he might want as charity. I don't have this. Let's not get into the context of this verse, why this verse was spoken, but the purport here is more important. This verse describes two kinds of people, one who gives charity and one who begs for it. A beggar should not ask charity from a person who is in difficulty. Similarly, one who is able to give charity should not deny a beggar. These are the moral instructions of Shastra. Chanakya Pandit says, Sannimitte varam tyago vinashe niyate sati. Everything within this material world will be destroyed, and therefore one should use everything for good purposes. Now, for Krishna conscious devotees, the good purpose is only the purpose of Krishna, nothing else. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must be always prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. Now, here is the point from where I want all of you to pay attention. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must be always prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. Now you just see the precision and the carefulness with which Prabhupada has written these verses. He is not using the word dedicate their lives. He is using the word sacrifice. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons, that means Brahmanas, who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women who are advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna conscious movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving God consciousness of the human society. The point which I'm making here is how to surrender to Krishna by doing this. First, we surrender to Prabhupada and the instructions to Prabhupada. And then when we move out, first we make ourselves Krishna conscious. And then actually we can never become perfectly Krishna conscious until we try to make others Krishna conscious. Until I start hearing the problems which other people are facing, I'll be overwhelmed with my own problems and with my own bills to pay. But when I hear others, when I see others struggling, then when I become paradukha dukhi, when I become sad at the misery of this material world, and when I see people how they are struggling for the lack of transcendental knowledge, then when I try to connect them to Krishna, my connection or my attachment to Krishna becomes stronger. So therefore, in this way, one day I'll be able to surrender to Krishna. Surrendering to Krishna means becoming an instrument of Krishna. And that is only possible by preaching. So if you chant Hare Krishna and if you preach, you'll be able to see Krishna face to face. If you will not do this, if we will not do this, then again, punarapi janamam, punarapi marnam, that will continue. So I will again share my screen. So the point which I'm trying to make is that if we want to surrender to Krishna, we have to first surrender to a devotee of Krishna. And a devotee of Krishna wants us to chant Hare Krishna and preach. Real happiness is in the lotus feet of Krishna. Real happiness is being recognized by Krishna, not by this peak society. And Krishna says, one who preaches the science of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, there is no servant more dear to me than one who preaches this science of Bhagavad Gita to others. Nor will there ever be. Krishna says like this in the Bhagavad Gita. So imagine if we really start chanting and if we really go out and preach, teach one while being taught by one. In the year 2021, I'll make one or two or at least one new person. I'll cultivate them within 1 year and bring them to Krishna consciousness, solid Krishna consciousness, not like an emotional thing. Ran away after 2 sessions. No. So we have to do that. Otherwise, I'm telling you, 15 years and the Sanatana Dharma has been lost. And this loss will be irreversible if we don't do anything now. The way Kali Yuga is moving, the way sinful propensities and sinful TV shows and sinful habits, sinful addictions, sinful cinemas, sinful web series, the way all this have propagated in this corona time, lockdown phase, the world has had a big damage, irreversible damage. We cannot even explain that damage now. So let's save everybody. Fourth point, last point of point number 1, that it is dependent on the reality. If this material world is reflection, then 180 degree in opposite direction must be the reality. That's true. Impersonalists don't accept the reality. Impersonalists don't accept that reality has variety. They say spirituality means monotonous and no variety. See, because they are seeing so much variety here, and all this variety is causing so much problem. So their idea is that if it is said that in the spiritual world there is no misery, that means there has to be no variety. That is their limited thought process. They don't know that eternal, blissful, all knowledge, uncontaminated bliss can exist with variety. In fact, the real variety, real beauty, real existence is there in the spiritual world. So the Mayavadis, they cannot understand this, they cannot accept it. But the point is, there is variety, beauty, enjoyment, relationships, etc. in the spiritual world. Who says this? Ved Vyas says this in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So at this point, I would like to stop. Next, we have to discuss the tips, branches, subroots, cutting, and surrender. These are all small topics. Only the first topic was very detailed. Other topics are just one slide. I think I can cover it in the next session, which is part 2. Rather, I would like to stop now and see if you have any questions, suggestions, any ideas for preaching, or whatever you want to discuss. I don't want to discuss the other parts now. We will stop here. If there are any questions or comments, reflections, suggestions, they are welcome, so that we can have a talk. Okay, Abhishek Mishra Prabhu has already said something. What is he saying? Prabhuji, regarding preaching, it is my personal observation that if a common man like me starts talking about spirituality, people in general become skeptical or scared, as if I've asked them for their life from them. But if someone like you or any other ISKCON speaker speaks, people listen. Why is it so? And in the interest of devotees present here, I'd like to seek your guidance on how to start preaching, how to speak. Maybe you can give a few quick tips right now and then take a detailed session later on. First things first, when I also go and preach, people behave as if I'm asking for their life from them. Nobody welcomes me that, oh, you are a monk from ISKCON, please come, my house is yours, my family is yours, my money is yours, my car is yours. Nobody speaks to me like this. I've also have had times where people have thrown me out of their houses. While distributing books, people have spit at my face. So I've also had my tough times. It's just that I have grown through these troubles. I have taken troubles for the pleasure of Krishna. And because of that, by the mercy of my spiritual master, I have a little bit grown in this task of preaching. You can say little bit my spiritual, not little bit, profusely, good in a nice way, my spiritual master has blessed me. The mercy of the Guru Parampara is flowing through us. So therefore we are able to preach. But the main reason why we are able to preach is because we are ready to go through any pain. We are ready to sacrifice under the guidance of senior devotees, anything which comes or which is detrimental to the Krishna consciousness, our own Krishna consciousness and the propagation of Krishna consciousness in general. We are determined. Like a soldier has many personal issues going on in his life, in his family, but he's focused. Vyavasayatmika buddhi eke ho kurunandana. So that determination of a soldier we should have, that no matter what happens, no matter how the material nature or Maya pulls me down or tests me or sucks my blood, I will chant and I will go out and preach. It's not an easy thing. It is never an easy thing. Do you think it is easy to even talk like this for 2 hours? And what am I getting out of this? Day by day, number of students are reducing. Nobody is ready to chant. Nobody wants to read the books of Srila Prabhupada. What am I getting out of this? But still we are doing, because this is the instruction of the spiritual master. I am not coming to these sessions to satisfy you people. I am coming to these sessions because my Guru has asked me to do this. So I'm least bothered when I go and preach. I'm least bothered how people react. I know in the bottom of my heart that when I do this, Prabhupada is pleased, that Guru Maharaj is pleased, that Krishna is pleased. I am not working for the satisfaction of my manager or the people around me. I'm working for the satisfaction of Krishna and Guru. That is my strength. So therefore, I don't hesitate. Yesterday, I was going out to look for some land. I have no money, but simply I was going out to look for some land to build a temple or center. I don't know how to talk to builders. I don't know how to deal with real estate people. But dependent on the mercy of Krishna, because Prabhupada has said, one who knows Krishna knows everything. I'm going and I'm talking to everybody. And nobody till now has told me that you are a layman, don't waste our time. They are taking interest in what I'm about to say. They are listening to me. And somehow whatever I'm saying or whatever they are saying, I'm able to make sense out of it, and they are able to make sense out of it, what I'm speaking. Why? Because I have faith that if someone knows Krishna, he knows everything. So we need to have faith in the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Just like a small baby needs only little bit support to learn how to walk. The innate ability of walking is already there. So similarly, a person who has heard sufficiently from Srila Prabhupada, he cannot but stop preaching. It will naturally come to him. He just needs little bit support. Okay, you do this, you do that. Instead of doing this, you speak like this, like that. But everything else comes naturally. The perfect personality who is sitting within guides from within to do preaching. Another obstacle in preaching is that people think that they are the doer. I am going and preaching and 5 people have become devotees. They've started chanting Hare Krishna. I am so great. No. Krishna is the doer. When you are preaching to someone, it is not you who are convincing them. The Paramatma which is in the heart of that person is the same Paramatma which is in your heart. If Krishna wants that person to become a devotee, then when you give him a book, he will take. Otherwise, even if you put a 10,000 rupees check along with that book and give him, he will not take. So one has to be always conscious. First, one needs to be determined that I will undergo any kind of, difficult situations while preaching. Number 2, one needs to have faith. Srila Prabhupada says, just read my books and present and repeat like a parrot whatever I have said. Your preaching will be successful. So if Abhishek Mishra Prabhu, if you can just read the books of Srila Prabhupada and repeat it like a parrot, because one pure devotee, Prabhupada has said, so Krishna is obliged to fulfill it. So whenever you repeat the words of Srila Prabhupada, anybody who hears you, the Paramatma in all their hearts will convince them to listen to the message of Bhagavad Gita, which you are just presenting as it is. This is the second point. Have faith in the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And third, always remember you are not the doer. This will remove all hesitation. Because we are strictly trying to follow these things, therefore we don't hesitate. You ask me to preach to a Gita course student, or you put me in an automobile workshop surrounded by big industrialists, I'll preach to them also. Of course, I will change my style of preaching. This is experience. Presenting the subject matter in a suitable way according to time, place, and circumstance. That is experience. That comes with time, also with mercy of Krishna. But I definitely dare to go and talk to anybody. You put me in front of Saddam Hussein, I'll go and talk to him. That look, you have to give your life to Krishna. Of course, I may get slapped and I may get thrown out and all those things, but I should be ready to go through it. So this is my idea of preaching. Number 1, be ready, be determined. Don't feel I tried preaching. They started, rebelling me against many WhatsApp groups and this like that. And don't be determined, and be sensible also. Don't bring bad name to ISKCON. Be sensible. Don't be fanatic. We don't want fanatics people. We want sane people to preach. Second, just read the books of Srila Prabhupada and present as it is. Prabhupada has never insulted anybody in a derogatory way in his books. He has just presented the facts. If we can just read it and present it, people will get convinced. On the contrary, if we try to speak on our own, nothing is going to happen, because we are disconnected from the Guru Parampara. And point number 3, you are not the doer. Krishna is the doer. Remember this. Then you can just start your preaching activities. And of course, All of you should try to preach and message me every week. Prabhuji, this is my preaching report. And first of all, I'll be happy to see that. And you can ask me questions. You can ask me suggestions. Maybe every session, last 10 minutes, we can dedicate preaching reports. I tried this, I tried that. Or maybe on WhatsApp only, you can send audio messages. I can also reply with audio messages. Maybe just fine tune this, try that. So under my guidance, you can also learn how to preach. But essentially, it is repetition, rote repetition of what Prabhupada has said in his books, determination to go through any trouble for the pleasure of Krishna, and lastly, always remembering that Krishna is the doer. I'm not the doer. These are the principles of preaching. If you can follow this, then you being able to preach is just a matter of time. It can be as small as 2 days also. I hope I've answered the question of Abhishek Mishra. By the way, Balaji Mohan Prabhu. Krishna said that one who goes to his abode would never return back. However, we were originally in his abode and fell from there. So this time when we go back, is it possible that we fall again? No. Why? Because we have to have faith in Krishna. Krishna is saying, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanmeti mameti so Arjuna. Krishna is telling that one who goes there never returns. So we have to have faith in Krishna that we will never return. Somehow or the other. Probably, I don't know. Nobody can trace out why the jiva fell down. But Prabhupada says we have to go back home, back to God. These are very inconceivable matters. No scholar, no person, no Veda can answer these questions. Why the jiva fell down? Only Krishna knows. So the Prabhupada disciple asked this question to Prabhupada. Same question with Balaji Mohan Prabhu. Prabhupada says, suppose if you have fallen into a river, will you first save yourself or will you be in that river and try to speculate how actually I fell down? And if I go out, are there chances of again falling down? So it is better to remain here only. No, try to save yourself. Similarly, Prabhupada said in that lecture that you go back home, back to Godhead and ask Krishna only that why you fell down and whether you will fall down again or not. But Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Yad Gatvan Anivartante Tad Dham Paramam. Prabhupada translates it as, one who goes back home, back to Godhead, has no obligation to return back. See, Jiva is always Swatantra Jivatma. If he goes crazy and wants to return back in the material world, Krishna cannot force him to stay there. But however, he has no obligation, like we have obligation by our karmic reactions to take birth as a cat or a dog. So one who goes to the spiritual world has no obligation to ever return. I hope I've made myself clear. Deepmala Golani Mataji. Prabhuji, I've had very few friends because my topic is always spiritual. Good. It is good to have spiritual friends rather than having a society of pigs around you. Because these pigs are only going to appreciate the most dirty and the most abominable people around them. You see the society these days. The more abominable the quality, the more is the appreciation. A swan never goes to a dirty pond. It only sports in the clear lake of the Mansarovar. So swans are always rare. So if you have few friends, it is good. In fact, I would say that have only devotee friends now. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Asat Sang Tyag Ei Vaishnavachar. The first symptom of a Vaishnava is that he has given up all unnecessary material association and he has friendship only with devotees. Srinivas Ramakrishnan Prabhu. AM. I don't know what is AM. One possibility may be many observe a noticeable change in you, peace, calm, etc. after you started attending the Gita classes. That will give confidence to some and progressively increasing numbers that you are worth listening to. Having said that, you need patience. See, if this message is to me, I'm least bothered about the numbers. Whether one person comes or 2,000 people come, it's the same for me. My intensity of my urgency to give the message of Krishna consciousness will not get affected However, I'm more concerned about all of you. Therefore, I'm saying each one teach one while being taught by one. So when I'm saying the students are going away, it is not for maintaining a good attendance record. I'm just being compassionate for the students, that what will happen to them, who will take care of them. From that perspective, I'm worried. I'm never behind the numbers as such. Or ideally, one should not be behind the numbers. The motto of the Navy is few good men. That's all. We want few good men, few surcharged people who will sincerely chant Hare Krishna, progress in Krishna consciousness, and go out and give this to others. We don't want thousands of followers, just like those professional reciters of Bhagavatam doing Bhagavad Sapta, putting chili in their eyes and crying with each verse. Thousands of people coming and listening, money being poured down. But after that, not even one person is chanting Hare Krishna and not even one person has become a devotee. But the attendance is huge, 1,000, 5,000 people. We don't want such people. We want few good men, that's all. And when I say men, I mean men, women, both. Okay, Shashi Pandey Mataji, people feel that we are wasting their time if we try to preach. Yes, it is a thankless task. Preaching is a thankless task. Nobody will ever come. Generally, very few people will come and tell you thank you. It's a thankless task. They are also telling that we are peaceful and we do not need to read or hear any scriptures for being peaceful. See, a mad person doesn't know he's mad. And if all the sane people, when they go to treat the mad person and the mad person is revolting, that don't treat me, and if we leave them, then what will happen to them? They will die being mad and they'll cause harm to others. The day when you get thrown out of someone's house and you feel really bad that I'm doing Krishna's work and Krishna, see, for this purpose, I had dedicated my life to you so that you threw me out. Now I'll not distribute books. No, we have to continue. This is called compassion. A very nice example is there in the scriptures. There was a scorpion which was drowning in the water, and there was a devotee who was having bath in the river. He saw the scorpion and he was trying to take out the scorpion with his hands. But the scorpion was again and again biting the sadhu and again falling into the river. But the sage was again trying to take it out and pull it out. So a person observed and he said, "Why did you do this?" So the sage said, or the devotee said, that the scorpion, no matter which condition he is or it is not ready to give up its nature. Its nature is to bite. So whether it is on the land or the water, it's not giving up its nature. I'm a devotee. My job is to reclaim people from the cycle of birth and death. If a scorpion is not giving up its nature, why should I give up my nature of saving other people? Even when other people are throwing stones at me, I should preach. I should save. This is the mood of a devotee. We don't care what these mad people say. First of all, their opinion is useless. They are in illusion. We don't care what they have to say. We have to go and give them Krishna consciousness. We have to literally be humble in front of them. Not like, you don't know anything, listen to me. No, we have to be humble. This is easy to say, very difficult to do. I'm also failing many times doing it, but this is how it is. We have to be humble. We have to fall down at their feet and we have to request them to chant Hare Krishna. Not in a phonetic way. Preaching is a humbling job. You have to request them, chant Hare Krishna. That is the proper way. And of course, we have to preach to them also. Balaji Radhakrishnan. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have more anarthas. So difficulty to preach. Everyday challenge is to get out of these anarthas. Sometimes feel sattvic, but at many times no confidence due to anarthas I have. If you don't preach, you'll drown in these anarthas forever. By your own strength, Balaji Radhakrishnan Prabhu, you will never come out of your anarthas. However, if you get a ray or a drop of mercy from spiritual master who gets pleased by your preaching activities, you'll overcome these anarthas in a moment. If you depend on your own japa, tapa and vrata to overcome your anarthas, good luck. 10,000 more lifetimes. Good luck. But if you go out and serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, save the principles of Sanatana Dharma by becoming Krishna conscious and going out and preaching, then you'll realize that your struggle with anarthas is very insignificant. There are bigger problems. Then you'll become humble. Humility means to think more about Krishna and his service and less about one's own self. And that will give you empowerment. I have too many things to say on this topic of humility. I will just give a brief example of Vasudev. Vasudev was a very dejected person. His sons had been killed. His wife had been kidnapped. He was a Kshatriya. It's like a doctor who has treated 20 patients in the last 1 month and all have died. And then somebody is approaching him to handle the 21st case. It's very difficult. So when Krishna told him, go and put me in Gokul, he never thought that I have failed as a Kshatriya. I couldn't save my sons, couldn't save my wife, couldn't save myself. But when the service of Krishna came, he just took it up. Humility means to think more about Krishna and his service and less about one's own self and difficulties. Then empowerment comes. Srinivas Ramakrishnan, DG. Having immersed yourself in spirituality needn't mean you need to give up the interests and hobbies, interests and activities as long as they don't conflict with spiritual preachings. Be a happy, jolly person with your friends as you've always. Slowly your faith will influence them as well. Okay, this is what you think, but the Shastra doesn't say so. Don't think that you're strong enough to continue to have the material association and as well as practice Krishna consciousness. Because when you spend time with these materialists, you will reveal your mind to them, and then they will be also revealing their mind to you. And in the process, you'll start enjoying that conversation trapped. If you are thinking after this, you'll be able to practice Krishna consciousness, good luck. At least Bhagavad Gita doesn't recommend that. Lord Chaitanya doesn't recommend that. Srila Prabhupada doesn't recommend that. जैसी संगति करता कोई वैसा ही बन जाता है. We should not become overconfident like that fish who's seeing that all the other fishes are going towards that bait and they are getting captured. But if I go, I will enjoy that bait also. I will eat away that insect also, not get caught also, and come back also. This is foolishness. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has clearly told, Asat Sang Tyag Ei Vaishnavachar. Now, we don't mean that you alienate yourself from them, of course. But we say, limit your interaction as what is necessary. If you want to ask them something, ask and finish it off. If you want to discuss something, discuss and finish it off. Make it professional. Don't start enjoying, don't start having food with them, don't start going out with them, don't start enjoying your time with them. That is called association. That will degrade you. Balaji Radhakrishnan, as you said, I am feared to preach. I should not give bad name to ISKCON and Prabhupada and Krishna. If you don't preach, see, if you preach and if you fail, you still please Srila Prabhupada. But if you don't preach, what do you think? What do you think? One is you're trying and you're failing and you're learning a lesson out of it. First of all, preaching means you do it under guidance. So you're trying to do something and then you're learning something. And the other approach is, I'm very fallen. I cannot preach. I only want nectar. I just want to attend various classes and get nectar. Preaching, no. I'm very fallen. I cannot preach. I'm a bumblebee. I only want nectar. No service I want to do. No preaching I want to do. Only nectar. This is not approach. We can't be like this. The more we grow spiritually, the more responsibilities we have to take. And that is how we get the mercy of Krishna. Of course, we will make mistakes. I've made many mistakes. I've also instilled negativity sometimes here and there. But I've learned from them. I've learned. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have got anything. Srinivas Ramakrishnan, BR. I don't know what are these short forms, DG, BR, AM. but we are also going through the same challenge, internal transformation. But then that journey continues even as you aim to share your learnings. This message is for me. AM is Abhishek Mishra. Okay. Narayani Kannan Mataji is telling, Prabhuji, I could not understand the third mantra of Ishopanishad. It says, killer of the soul will enter a planet of darkness, but a soul can never be killed. Please explain. This is not related to today's topic. You please message me personally. I'll explain. Deepmala Golami Mataji is asking, does Jivatma live eternally in Vaikuntha also? Yes. Jivatma lives eternally in spiritual world also and material world also. So, Jivatma is Tatastha Shakti. Sometimes when it is under the influence of internal energy, it goes in that direction. Sometimes it is when it is under the influence of external energy, it goes towards the material world. That means it is Tatastha or marginal energy. There is propensities by inside the Jivatma to get affected either by internal or external, whatever it chooses to serve. So if a Jivatma has understood very nicely that I will eternally choose to serve the internal energy of the Lord, it will internally remain in the spiritual world. Okay, Balaji Mohan, in Vaikuntha all reside as only souls, right? Then why it is stated as men, women, various birds and beasts? This is again, I will not say it's a very good question, but it's a nice point. See, I have never told that soul is formless or bodiless or identityless. Mother Yashoda eternally resides in the Golok Vrindavan. Then is not Mother Yashoda a soul? Is not Krishna a Purusha? Is not Srimati Radharani a soul? So how does this idea, where did this conception come? That a soul is like, this is again some traces of imperfect knowledge from here and there. Soul means a spiritual form. Narad Muni has a spiritual form. That is, Narad Muni has no material body. Once Ravana tried to shoot some arrows at him, but it could not affect Narad Muni because he has a spiritual form and arrows are material. So spirit soul doesn't mean that it has no form. Just like we have a material form, the soul also has a spiritual form. And we all have a spiritual form. And in that spiritual form, sometimes that spiritual form is that of a male, sometimes that spiritual form is that of a female, in order to serve Krishna. So we can't say that spirit soul means just a spark of light somewhere. This is again incorrect understanding. So full variety is there. Full variety is there. There are animals also in the spiritual world. Cows also, dogs also, everything is there. But everything is cognizant. Even the stone of the spiritual world has its own mind, has its own feelings, can talk, trees can talk. All these fantasy movies which we are seeing, they are all this faint remembrances of the spiritual world which we have in our hearts. Okay. Personal discussions, private, two people talking. What is the difference between Golok Vrindavan and Vaikuntha? Golok Vrindavan is the eternal highest abode of the spiritual world where Krishna in his two-handed form eternally resides. Swayam Bhagwan lives. Vaikuntha means various Narayan expansions. In Vaikuntha, there is a mood of awe and reverence. There is not much, you can say, intimacy. You cannot go and keep your hand on the shoulder of Narayan. You can't go and hug Narayan. So awe and reverence. But in Golok Vrindavan, you can sit on the shoulder of Krishna and Krishna can run for you. This is some brief description. Golok Vrindavan is higher than Vaikuntha, by the way. Okay. Naresh Kumar Pandit. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Itna bada question. But this is the last question, so I'll take it. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I personally preached Bhagavad Gita course part 1 topics before 15 to 20 people, including few older and young females for 10 days. For first 3 days, I was myself confused, but next day I was well conversant with my topics by the grace of Lord Krishna. I covered all topics and they were convinced by my preaching. I was myself amazed how I managed to preach and chant the Mahamantra easily. One of the listener was very well educated regarding Sanatana Dharma, but he was also impressed to listen to the course topics. Very good. That is very good news. Please track how many people are chanting Hare Krishna. The success of preaching means chanting. If somebody has begun chanting, then you can assume that you have become successful in preaching. So please follow up and request them to chant Hare Krishna. Make some nice prasad in your house and invite them sometimes, or call them in some neutral place and give some prasad to them. Chant Hare Krishna, send some nice Krishna conscious books to them, or some nice articles from Veda base. And then this way continue your good work. As long as you will simply read the books of Srila Prabhupada and present it as it is, you will be successful. If we start bringing in our own personal interpretations, then we'll fail miserably. Sometimes the preaching will work, sometimes the preaching will not work. It's never that the preaching never works. It's just that few souls are ripe enough to become devotees, and few souls need some investment of sukriti in them. So let's say there is a person who met a devotee today. Little bit sukriti he got. Then after 2 years he met another devotee. He got a little more sukriti. Then he met another devotee. He got a little more sukriti. And after 10 years he finally met someone. And Krishna had pulled the right strings in his life at that time. So he understood, okay, this is Krishna consciousness. This is what I'm meant to do. And then he becomes a devotee. So no preacher should think that I have made this person a devotee. No. There are so many other book distributors and so many other preachers who have had their inputs to that person. And ultimately, it's Krishna who is making someone into a devotee. A preacher is just an instrument. So we always have to be cognizant of this fact. Success in preaching means two things. Are they chanting Hare Krishna? And are they reading Srila Prabhupada's books? These two are success. And hearing their lectures. These three things, if we can ensure, that means we are successful in preaching. So just kindly track these points, and you can send a more detailed report to me. What are the names of these people? And what little bit more detail about them, how many rounds they are chanting, when are you holding the classes, what is the time? Maybe to one of the classes you can invite me. I will also join. I'll have an interaction with them. Please send a more detailed report, and let's work on it as a group. Thank you. So this was all the questions covered today. If there are any more questions or comments, you can please go ahead and type it. So if there is nothing else, then I would like to end today's session. I would like to thank all of you for your patient hearing. Please, please, please regularly chant at least 4 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. Please try your best to follow the 4 regulative principles. That means please avoid meat eating, which includes meat, fish, and eggs. Avoid intoxication. Avoid illicit sexual activities, especially outside marriage. And avoid gambling. Be pure. And go out and preach. The slogan is each one, teach one, while being taught by one. We'll be very happy if you can bring some new prospective devotees to this Gita course also. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare